never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome to Common Folk.
Hey, we're back.
Ooh.
Did you see how I got a little bit more excited?
You were, yeah.
A little more animated there.
Yes, we're now a little...
Do you like that, Morgan?
Yes.
Do you like your Ben a little more animated?
Yeah, he's always very quite chill, which is great because calms me out, but a little uppity
Yeah, you got to bring a little zesto to the podcast, right?
I've been working on it.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you got, though.
Hey,
That's all I got.
day by day, get a little bit better, right?
Okay.
That's all we can try. I mean, that's all we can strive for.
I'm not going to ask for too much, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So what's up, Andy? What do we got going on?
Well, we're going to bring on a guest that I kind of met through, one of my other endeavors, sports broadcasting. Every summer we've been doing this thing with Collegiate Development League, and it just fits News Channel Nebraska perfectly because we cover a lot of these kids in high school and then throughout college too, because we do Wayne State, Doane University, UNK games. So we kind of have a relationship with a lot of these, or have covered a lot of these players that make up about 70% of the rosters. And if for folks out there that don't know, Developmental League is kind of like the Cape Cod League or the Alaskan League. And anyway, one of these coaches that just always seems to be on the winning end, so I have to interview this guy after every game, and introduce the player of the game and coach of the game. And Johnston Hobbs over here, he's the coach of the Filth Ballers. So,
Oh, I like that name.
Yeah.
It's fitting.
And it does have that minor league kind of flair to it. It's another facet of the league that I just love. It's for fun, but it's pretty competitive too, isn't it, Johnston?
It is. First of all, I want to thank all three of you for having me, and I'm not going to apologize for you having to interview me after each game.
Right. That means you're winning.
That's right. No, so Coach Hobbs has a couple different things going on. Every time I talk to this guy, I'm just like, wow, you do this, you do that. Like, what all goes into that? And starts telling me about, well, we got a player down in Florida, or, I'm training a guy in North Carolina. Like, well, how do you do all this? How do you tie all this together and then just make time to pick up and go to Omaha to coach a collegiate baseball team over the summer? So, Coach Hobbs, I'd just kind of like you to introduce yourself and kind of tell us about your personal business and really like what kind of draws you back to Omaha to be part of this, Corn Belt League that I feel like it's growing year after year.
I own and operate 224 Performance and Peak Performance. Basically, we started off as talent development. When I retired, I had a couple of different successful businesses, and I played baseball. So once I retired from all that, I was down in South Florida living as most retired athletes do, and because there's no state income tax. And I was watching all these former players coach these guys for $80, $100 for 45 minutes, and coaching a 9-year-old like he's a 20-year-old or vice versa, all just saying the same things over and over and over. Keep your hands in, while they're looking at their phones.
It's like that scene on Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Where, what's his name? Chubbs is sitting there, and he's like, yeah, great. And that lady's like swinging, and he's like flipping through. Yeah, great job. Just
it's
move your
exactly,
hips.
That's the image that I got when I saw it.
Yeah.
And then I was a catcher, and there aren't a lot of schools, particularly high schools, that have catching coaches. Mm-hmm. So my old coach at Indiana reached out to a high school coach that he knew in South Florida and said, hey, one of my guys is down in Florida. He's a catching guy. Do you have any room for him? And it just turned out that their catching guy just left. So I went down to Flanagan High School. We turned around that year and won a national championship. And then we were ranked probably top 5 in the country for the next few years when we were number 1 again a few years later. Put out a bunch of MLB guys like J.D. Martinez and Mike Napoli, guys like that. So we were blessed with that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talent does help coaching. I will say that.
Well, yeah, but you helped that. Like, yes, you want talented people to coach, but don't you think?
They all didn't come up like the way you see them.
Okay.
So every time one of those guys hits a home run or something that, maybe a while back, but on their journey, at some point you made some sort of difference for them.
Absolutely.
So that's the fun part for me is, and one of the reasons why I keep coming back to Omaha, which I'll get into, but as I started doing catching, and I was catching there, then I got invited to, because all of a sudden our catchers went out the roof. We were all first team South Florida, which is a pretty big thing because South Florida is the hotbed for high school baseball.
Okay, is it?
Yeah, I mean.
It's like Nebraska volleyball.
Okay. All right, that's good to know because I don't know
most guys
enough.
go from high school to the pros. I mean, they're
Really?
that good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we have a lot of Dominicans. We got some Cubans, Venezuelans, you know, and that's their way. You know, yeah, I was the only non-Latino Hispanic on the team. And there was like, you know, Rodriguez, Gutierrez, blah, blah, and then Hobbs. So, you know, but I immediately got in and I got asked to speak at some national conventions on catching and catching strategies. And I started doing research every year on catching, and it kind of blew up. And I said, well, why am I doing just catching? Mm-hmm. So then we started pitching, because as a catcher, you got to work with a lot of pitchers and a lot of pitching coaches. And different pitchers have different mentalities and personalities, some of them multiple personalities.
Yeah.
You got to know which guy does
really?
what. Oh, yeah.
The screwballers, the knuckleball
The lefty
guys.
flamethrowers are the weirdest.
Can I interrupt you
No,
real
go
quick?
right
So
ahead.
at what age were you when you were talking about this?
Was I when I
Yeah.
started doing this? Oh, wow. Let's see. Probably 40.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 57 now.
Okay,
So,
I was
yeah.
just trying to think of like timeline for people at like how many
Well, if
years
you want
ago.
my birthday too,
Well,
I take cards.
no, that's okay. I didn't want to ask you your age,
get
but
cards.
just was thinking that, you know, how old were you when you were okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
I
Go
sold my
ahead.
company, and I was actually playing pro ball independently, and blew my Achilles,
Oh.
and then blew the repair, and so that effectively ended the career. And I was the best I'd ever been. I was playing with guys 15 years younger than me, and I was careering. So it was really tough. It's not the way I wanted to go out. Obviously, nobody wants to. So starting this company kept me involved in baseball. So we started doing pitching as well, and then I have a background in biomechanics, so I started studying more human movement stuff and applying science and physics to what we do. And, you know, it's a big technology thing now in baseball, where sabermetrics, where your pitching development guys are MIT grads in math. They're not like old school baseball guys that have been around for 30 years. So
Yeah.
I had to add something to my resume that would make me attractive, you know, to get business. And then it started blowing up into clinics. Then we started doing talent evaluations for little leagues. So we would go and put numbers on kids. So instead of dads evaluating them for the draft, and, you know, there's always some, you know, and I don't like to use
Rose-colored.
daddy ball, but you know what I mean? They'll, you know, you give him a 1 through a 5, he's going to give his kid a 1 so he can draft him later when he's really a 5, or vice versa. He's a 5 when he's really a 1. So we got into doing evaluations with that. We made the kids, you know, put on numbers. We didn't know any of them. We started doing the player evaluations. We made up 8 different metrics to evaluate their athleticism and their baseball potential within the rules of Little League, because Little League says you got to get 3 ground balls here, you got to get 3 ground balls there. So we got really creative with that and came up with a program that's almost like a fantasy draft. Like you have there are 500 players in this league. We evaluate every one of them. We rank them 1 to 500 on any of the 8 different metrics. So if you want a shortstop who is got a high score in athleticism and a good batting average, it'll rank all those 1 through 500. It'll run the
Sweet.
outfielders. So we quickly trademarked that and wrote it. And the next year, for the first time in 47 years, Fort Lauderdale won like 5 district championships. So we've been going back every year and doing that with them. We've been on upstate New York. We've been as far out as Arizona. But then I got kind of bored with that because it's not higher level. I mean, it's a lot of fun, you know, but working with 500 kids can wear you out.
Yeah.
And dads are like, oh, that's my kid over there, number 47. Yeah, I got it, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Is that the hardest? The parents probably, or
You know, I hate to say this because it's just sad, but it's the reality is that the parents are what's mainly wrong with everything in kids sports right now, youth
Okay.
sports, in my opinion.
I mean, you hear that. I mean, and we have kids that play sports, but
right. Well,
We know it 100%. I mean, we've been through that. Our a little bit of background, just so you know who we are, and the listeners know because we've talked about it. But our daughter goes to college at Colorado State right now, and she plays soccer, and she has since she was like 3 years old. So we came through that whole thing and watched all that unfold, and exactly the things that you're talking about, like the interference that the parents had you think about like, how are they helping them along? Like how are they enabling the child to, get to the next level and so on and so forth? But so often you see where they're holding them back because of just the way they act.
Absolutely. And it's, getting in the way of the coaching.
100%.
And if I'm just glad I got my job when I do now, because every parent I meet is an all-world coach.
Yeah.
It'd be tough for me to get a coaching gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would run into it. I mean, we'd be on the sidelines, we'd be whatever, and people would be yelling. I mean, sometimes we'd get passionate, whatever, and it would be like, look, you got to reel it back. Let the coach and the players do their thing.
Yes.
We're just here to watch at this point. Like, we've done what we can do. We need to support from the backside, but
I think that came from also the coaches and the teams to be like, I don't need you parents saying anything. You say something, we got a problem. So there was so, don't you think?
We had some coaches that
were like, don't say a thing,
Yeah.
But I mean, do you feel that do you see that or?
Oh, I see it because like as you would watch your daughter's soccer games, I got to sit there all day and watch every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I got it times 10 every day. And there are things that I see that just makes my, skin curl. Just recently when I was down in South Florida before I came here, one of the things that my business does is we will capture live video of your entire game and upload it for whatever team that wants it. But we also chip each individual player so the camera will track every single player. So no matter what play you're in, the AI will separate it and email you all your plays on top of the game.
Wow.
Cool.
So you can use that to, coaches can use it to evaluate. Little league parents can use it to send it to grandma or grandpa or whatever. And then kids like what I'm working with that are looking for 4-year schools out of JUCO or looking to go pro or even trying to find a college team can use those videos. So we were out doing that in down in Fort Lauderdale. And, there was a parent who immediately sent us an email when we put it out that we're doing it, criticizing our email address.
What?
This doesn't look very professional, and I'm a branding specialist, and I'm like, this is all my company does is brand athletes, pal. You know what I mean? And this is this is the beta version of what we're doing. We'll dress it up later. So we get there to the game, and it turns out it's the same parent that's trying to tell his kid how to pitch the entire time and how to slide as he's carrying his 4-pound dog with a bow on it, And I don't stereotype, but you can't even pick a right dog, man. Don't tell the kid to slide.
Yeah.
And the things he was telling the kid were just absolutely ridiculous and goes against every baseball, piece of acumen that anybody would have. So,
I think you have to realize, and a lot of parents don't, like, you have choices. You can decide where your kid is going to play, or at least get them to try out whatever. And if you don't like it, then move on, man. Like,
there's so many options.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But what you have to realize is that once you've decided to be a part of an organization, let that organization do their thing. It's no different. I reference, automotive repair all the time because that's kind of how I came up. Yep. It's no different than, are you going to go to, so you're getting your car worked on, or are you going to go walk in the shop and go tell the technician, like, man, I really think you need to be thinking about this and looking at this part and, blah, blah, blah. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Let the expert do their thing.
Yeah, I run into it sometimes when I'm working with catchers. I'll have some parent, first of all, ask me for advice. What do you think I should do today with my catchers? I'm coaching Little League. And I'll say, well, I'll do this, and I'll make sure their feet do that. Well, why? Wouldn't you have them do this? I'm like, no, I would have them do this and move their feet like that. Well, it doesn't make sense because you're not listening. X, Y, Z, and I'm like, well, listen, man, you're an attorney, right? Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how to go in and fight a case in court. This is what I did for a living. I'm pretty sure I got this down. But they're just some people. I think that's their way of being involved. They don't realize that it's a negative effect. Number one, what happens to that kid down the road from that experience? And every now and then I'll get, like say, an entitled athlete whose parents told them that they're the best, and the coach is ripping them off because they can't, they're not starting, and you're the best, and they end up transferring high schools 3 or 4 times.
Oh, we're seeing a lot of that around here.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon in baseball and college to transfer because you got to play to get drafted. So, and particularly with COVID back in the lineup, and kids aren't getting time because the rosters have expanded, and you have scholarships that have expanded in order to give the players that are there fair time or a fair opportunity because they lost 2 years. So, a lot of high school kids are staying back a year, doing an extra year at academies and stuff like that because getting the COVID guys moved out. So we see it a lot there with transferring and stuff, but that's not unusual. But when you're bouncing around from high school to high school and you're an average player, that's usually got something to do with the parent.
100%.
Yeah.
So
every time.
Was that part of the reason, moving up from Little League up to a little bit higher stakes or more developed players? Is that one of the things kind of attracted you to the Corn Belt League, this collegiate development league here in Omaha?
Yeah, I've been coaching college kids now for about 10 years in the summers, and it's really weird because another part of our business is talent management. So I started this talent management agency about 5 or 6 years ago, knowing because I'm coaching college guys that eventually they're going to get out of college, and if they're good enough, move on. If you move on to minor league ball, you got 4 or 5 years to make the big league team, or you can get traded or whatever. So you're looking at 8-9 year turnaround. So I formed the company, not even having one athlete, and 3 years later, those guys start coming through the pipeline, and they're guys that I coached.
Yeah.
So I originally did that. That was kind of my time off from the business because when everybody's playing is when there's no agency work going on. Is in the off season when you're striking deals, going to meetings, going to dinner, trying to talk teams into signing your guys. The season, you just let them go and do their thing. If they need some bats, they'll text me. If they need shoes or something, I'll hear from them. I got one player right now that I talk to every single day because we're having a issue with the elbow and a coach pressing him to pitch, and we got some contract stuff on the line. So
and for folks that don't know, collegiate baseball is played in the spring, kind of a short season, and then for players and kids that want to get better, they join these summer leagues, and they have all summer to kind of hone in, work on their skills, find coaching like through Coach Hobbs in this type of league. So it's where baseball is just a little bit different than football and even basketball, where you're allowed to play in the summer league. You're actually encouraged to, I would say.
Yeah, every coaching staff has a player development guy in college, and their job is to get you to a league to get more time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes pitchers take the time off, obviously, because they got to let their arm rest. What attracted me to Omaha is, I had just finished a season in Puerto Rico, which my family was super stoked about. Let's go back to Puerto Rico.
I bet.
Like, wow, you only came the last 2 days of the season, then we stayed 2 weeks. I'm ready to go home. And, so I get that a lot when I get home. Are you going back? No, I'm not. So I came here after the first year. I brought about 8 of my guys with me from South Florida and guys that I'd coached. And we won the first 9 games of the season. We just kind of ran through the season. And we finished first place in the regular season, and unfortunately I had to leave because my wife's father was very ill and eventually passed away. So my assistant took over, and we lost the championship game that year in the tournament. Mm-hmm. So the next year I came back, and this will all lead to why I keep coming back here, was the first COVID year. So I come back, and I got 12 guys on my roster who had never played a college game because their season got banged, and they were all freshmen. So basically I got 12 high school guys.
Oh, God.
Well, we finished the regular season at 10-19. Nobody gave us a prayer. Then we swept the entire league in the playoffs and won the championship in the tournament. Nobody touched us.
That was
Sweet.
wild.
Isn't
It was wild.
And you interviewed him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
After the dog pile, and you talk about lefties. You had a wild left-hander.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, my
I had
gosh.
I had some nuts on that team, man.
Real quick, it just blew us away. Like, we were just trying to wrap our mind around it. This reliever that he had, every time he came into the game, and we didn't know this, he would chuck the first pitch out of the ballpark, like behind the stands.
On purpose?
Yeah, and we didn't know that because you do his wind up and you throw, and it'd be a ball one, but he would go over the backstop and into the stands. And I'm like, he must have lost his grip on that one.
I remember that broadcast because when I went back and listened to it, you guys were like, oh, it got out of his hand. And I'm like, no, it's all planned.
He just throws it over.
But why?
Yeah. It's called mountaintop. That's kind of his thing. Okay. You know how he's a very crafty pitcher. Like, he doesn't overpower you. And it's funny. He became my assistant after that. And now he's a head coach in the league coaching against me.
Oh, shit.
So I have 2 of my former assistants coaching against me and one of my former pitchers. So, like, half the league I got a big target on my back now. Mm-hmm. I feel like Bill Belichick pumping out coaches over here.
Yeah, and they know all your tactics.
I don't tell them everything.
Oh, okay, good.
Got to protect the brand, man.
All right.
But his first pitch was his trademark, is throw it over the press box. And he yells, mountaintop, And so everybody's like, well, and I told him, you can do that. But if you walk that batter, that stops. Never walked a batter. Just super crafty, high baseball IQ. he has the league record for pickoffs, because he's just that crafty. So it's a lot of fun to see him evolve as a pitcher against me to a pitcher for me to my assistant coach to now a head coach.
Well, and he got player of the game.
Yes.
So I had to interview him. Yeah. And I said, what was with that first pitch, man? He goes, that's just a tactic I use to remind myself that it's not life or death. This is a game.
Yes.
So just have fun with it. And when I do that, it makes all the guys laugh, takes the edge off. And I think that's a really good perspective. And that's another thing that this, summer league allows you to do is just have fun, get better, play baseball, and enjoy it.
I think that also is a little glimpse into how important the mental aspect of the game is. Because what you're talking about right there is, the kid's like, man, it clears my head a little bit. Yeah. We have a little bit of fun, things lighten up, and now it's go time. And that's all a mentality thing, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and that team in particular was a very fun team because we watched each other develop. And as we got closer, we got better. And we just hit it at the right time. And there was no stopping us that season. So we come back the next season, and I did a little bit more recruiting. Joe likes us to recruit about 8 guys. I like to recruit about 20.
Okay.
I mean, my roster is 25. I'm going to recruit 20 because I want to know what I'm dealing with, because it's hard to take 25 guys from different schools, different cultures, different parts of the country, and make them one team. If I have returnees coming back, which I've been very lucky to have a lot of guys return to play for me, that brings some consistency back. And now I have 5 to 8 assistant coaches that are playing that tell the guys how things go.
Yeah.
So the last year's team, I brought a bunch of guys. We had like 8 or 9 returnees. So we immediately clicked. But we were very workmanlike. We were like suit and tie, come to work, old school Yankees, no facial hair. And not by anything I did, because I'm the biggest clown out there. But that was just the approach they took. Like, this is our job. We're going to come in here. And we set a league record for wins last year. And we won the regular season and the championship season, which had never been done before. So that was a really special team. This year's team is the most fun team I've ever had in my life. And I've coached tens of thousands of people. And these guys are just ridiculous.
What is so fun about them?
I don't know what it is, but like I'm almost laughing right now just thinking about them, because I looked down the dugout yesterday, and I hate to say this about my former coach Sonny, but we put a beating on him yesterday.
No, you love to give him. Okay,
I'm not gonna lie, I do. I like to stomp him. He's always trying to pull some little trick on me, and then it never works. But so I'm looking down the dugout, and guys are just having fun. And we've started off, we're 7-1. We're playing well. We've had 45 hits in the last 3 games. We've averaged something like 10 runs a game, but that's not sustainable. We are going to have a game where we don't perform like we're supposed to. And we had that game last week where we got our anatomy handed to us. Figuratively speaking, it wasn't that bad of a score, but we didn't do anything right. But they still had fun.
Yeah.
So the next day we came out and we played like our tails were on fire. This group is more of a blue collar kind of, let's get down to it and have a lot of fun. It's kind of like a party in the dugout with these guys this year. So it's taken some years. Like I'm not as old anymore, with these guys. I feel like I'm 30 and not 57.
Yeah. A couple of things. I've got some notes that I want to ask you about, but I wanted to ask you first, Andy, because we talked about trying to do a couple of different recordings here, and we talked about learning about the coach and kind of how he came up and what he's doing. Then we also talked about maybe just doing something on coaching. And so far we're basically talking about coaching. So do we want to blend this, or we want to move on?
Hey, let's just let the conversation happen.
Okay.
Right? I'm cool with whatever.
Yeah.
I did kind of want to shift gears and get into, and we've already talked about this, NIL. And I know, doesn't 224 Performance, you help some student athletes out with that, don't you?
Yeah, part of our agency is representing amateur athletes on the NIL side, because you can't obviously represent them from a professional sports side. So we do a lot of NIL work with guys, and any athletes really. We have baseball, we have boxing, we have beach volleyball, we have mixed martial arts.
Those beach volleyball gals, they rake it in.
Yeah,
they're some of the highest paid collegiate athletes out there. Yeah, and gymnasts.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
The logo's only this big, though.
Yeah.
It's true.
But yeah, so I mean, I think the more good people you can have around these student athletes to try and help them navigate this, because things go wrong. And then, you accept $500,000. Well, guess what? You got to pay taxes on that. You don't just get to spend it. And it's a lot of stuff for 19 and 20-year-olds to just take on. Like, I couldn't imagine just being handed $500,000 to play football,
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things you're really focusing on here.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility, honestly, because every state, every school has different rules and different laws about it. What we wanted to do is make sure that the athletes that we work with, whether they're pro or amateur, get proper advice on this so they don't end up in that situation, because I hate to say it, but there are companies out there that are taking advantage of it. There's one company out there now that you see blasting all over social media that's a popular entity that will do NIL stuff, but they get 80%. The athlete gets 20%.
80?
Wow.
80%. We get 20%. Out of that 20%, we pay companies to find stuff for us. So we're not trying to get rich off of it. We're just trying to help them and pay our bills in hopes that, they stick with us down the road. We're doing some NIL work with a brand new startup company that's getting ready to roll out called Next Level. And what Next Level does, we're the only agency working with them. So I've been kind of helping them out with the baseball side of it, because they've been doing a lot of basketball, football, stuff like that. But the guy that created it's a baseball guy. So they asked me to come on board and help out a little bit. So we've been making this thing happen. It's going to be an app where it helps potential and existing talent improve or create their branding and then monetize it. So it'll be doing things like NFTs. So here's a digital trading card. We only made 10 of them, bid away for it, stuff like that. And that money goes directly to the athlete, and we get, only 20% of it. So it's all done legally because we have a department that goes through all that stuff, because it has to be approved by compliance. You gotta have permission to use the likeness of the university or college or wherever they're going if it's in their uniform, which 9 times out of 10 they give you.
Okay.
And then you put it out there, and you make sure we tell our guys, put this over here in this account, because that's going to be your taxes, and do this here, and this is what you can spend. Now you can take our advice or you can leave it, but we have no responsibility if you blow it all. But we give them that advice. And that was something that we thought twice about, because it's kind of a gray area. It's the Wild West right now with NIL, right? But with the guys that we were and the girls that we work with, we don't get the first round people. That's not what we're about. We try to get like the 15th to 40th round. Well, now it's like 27 rounds. They don't get a ton of bonus money. After 5th round, it drops off. You can get $250,000 in the 5th round, and 6th round you'll be lucky to get 6 figures. So I like to help players, and these are all people that I've coached. So they're no strangers in our group, or they're people I've worked with. I know them all personally, these athletes. So that's the type of thing we want to do. And helping them with the NIL was a huge decision, because it's super complicated and it's super legal. My business partner is my business attorney. So that was convenient for us.
Yeah.
I had this rule where if you have a bunch of friends, you need one that works at a grocery store, one that's an attorney, one that works at a bank, and one at a liquor store, and you're good to go.
There you have it. I like it.
So I got the attorney taken care of now, and the bank. So
Right. How'd you come up with 224? I'm seeing it on your shirt.
I'm glad you asked that, because
Yeah.
that's the reason why I created it, so somebody would ask me. If you're scoring a baseball game, 2-4, 2 to 4 is a throw from catcher to second base to throw out a stealing. So it'd be 2-2-4, 2-4 for one caught stealing. So it's 2-2-4.
Okay.
So that was a catcher.
From number 2 to number 4.
That's
Yeah.
crafty.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a catcher's mentality right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to
that
promote.
just running into walls.
Catchers got to promote themselves. Everyone's talking about the pitcher. Somebody's got to talk about the catcher.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was trying to get into the park pregame back when I was playing, and security wouldn't let me in because they didn't recognize me. And I'm like, man, I'm the starting catcher. I mean, I wear a mask all day, right?
There
He
you
goes, well,
have
your hat's not dirty. I'm like, I don't wear a hat. I wear a mask. We had to call somebody to get me in. I'm like, yeah, I'm the first one here and the last one out every day, because I'm in an ice tub, before and after. And he was a new guy, and there's nothing as humbling as somebody going, who are you?
Right.
I'm a starting catcher.
Yeah.
So you're fortunate enough to deal with some really good top-level talent, in the Corn Belt League, and you tried to help a young man out last year, and you still are, I believe. But it was just a deal where you're doing all these workouts for professional teams. Like he was flying out to New York. He was flying, down south. and then you'd fly back and play in the Corn Belt League. And there was a number that had to be met, and then could you kind of go down that road and what because he ultimately ended up signing with a premier college team.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that sounds like it didn't really come together like we thought it would. And I just think that's where, people really got to be careful with this NIL stuff, and transfer portal stuff.
Yeah. And you really need to get an advisor if you're that level of talent that you trust and that you know. In no way am I counting on that kid when he signs for me to be his agent. He's just a kid that I've known, that I've worked with, so I'm helping him out and serving as his advisor. He's in a weird situation. It usually doesn't happen like that, but this tells you how chaotic the system is. Top level talent, probably regarded as the best player that's probably been in this league. Projected to be drafted. Got a free agent offer for right around 5th round money, so it was about $200,000 to $300,000. But he was going to a prominent school out west, where you get an education from there. You're probably going to make that a year. Well, at least that's what they're counting on. But coaches get fired and stuff happens, and now you're stuck with, wow, I just spent X amount of dollars in school, and now what am I going to do? And just imagine if you compound that with you took some money from somewhere and it wasn't legal, and you turned down that pro deal already. There are 760 some guys in Major League Baseball out of 7.5 billion people on the planet.
Sure.
Wow.
The odds are like 1 in 100 million that you make it. So it's a lot of pressure on these kids.
Yeah.
And you got to have a sounding board that's got some experience and try to help them through it. And, we're working through it with him now. He's entering the transfer portal. Of course, he's got a lot of interest. They sent me the list of schools the other day, and I looked at them, and there's some definite hard no's on there because you don't know if the coaching staff's going to – you don't want to go through the same thing twice, right? Because in order to be that 1 in 100 million, you got to be special up here too, like we're talking mentality.
Yep.
You have all the talent in the world, but if you're a basket case, you ain't going to make it.
Yep.
And you got to focus, and you got to learn how to deal with failure in baseball. Because if you fail 70% of the time, you're a Hall of Famer. If you bat 300, which is crazy. You fail 70% of the time in school, you're working, at Walmart at the door. No offense to Walmart workers, but you don't have a lot of options. So right now, I think we're actually meeting later today to try to put down a strategy.
Okay. All right.
And he'll recover from. He's a smart kid, good grade point average, so that helps. He's got a lot of options. That doesn't happen for everybody.
Right. And that's where sometimes your talent can allow you to get away with some things.
Absolutely.
And you see this at Duke, Kansas, whatever, especially in basketball. These guys go there, they think they're top shit, they get in trouble. Well, it doesn't matter because Kansas will cut them or, take away their scholarship, but then they'll just go play for Kentucky or just go to the NBA. Like sometimes that super talent, but that's even more so less than 100 in a million.
Yeah, it's an accountability issue. And if you run in a program, a fish rods from the head. If kids keep getting away with that, it's because you're allowing them to get away with it. We had a slogan last year that addressed that, and is let substance be our style, not style be our substance. So if you're all flair and you're wearing all the gold Evo shield and you got this fancy swing, but you're batting 0, what value do you bring to the team?
Yeah.
So it's about value and putting yourself in the right spot.
Now, are you throwing a little shade there? Because we had a team last year that had a lot of flair, and it was one of the games that you might have got a little flared up on the third baseline there.
That was 2 years ago.
Oh, 2.
And by the way, we beat that team for the championship. So, and I would not ever do that.
No,
you know me.
I know. But that is one thing that I really love about this league. Yes, it's a developmental league, and it's kind of off season. Not only is it fun, but these guys get competitive. Like, it is still a straight on, we're out here to win. When those lights get clicked on and that first pitch is thrown, it's all hands on deck. Like, they can still have fun and enjoy themselves, but it's competitive.
It is. And part of summer ball, summer ball had this moniker or this reputation years ago where, you just go there to have fun. You don't bunt, you don't do this, you don't do that. Well, that's not how I want to do it. If it's developmental, you can't develop if you're not practicing small ball. Pitchers don't practice throwing balls. You practice throwing strikes, right? You don't practice striking out when you're up there. You're up there to get hits. So that's why I started taking a little bit more initiative in the recruiting of these teams that I have, is because I want guys that are serious about getting better. And I don't care if you're a superstar or not. If you say, I'm going to come here and work hard every day and fight for it, then you got a spot on my team. And I think that's part of this team this year. We got a bunch of fighters, you know. And, and that's very important. And that makes it competitive, and that makes it a better league.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I've seen that from other coaching staffs, especially the past 2 seasons. They're getting really aggressive, base running, trying a lot more hit and run type of stuff, you know, next level, you know, type of baseball. And it's not what you think of it as the old traditional, hey, let's just go get some cuts in there, throw some heaters, call it a day.
Yeah, and again, we go back to the mental side of it. That's helping these kids, even in a loss, if you're applying that type of strategy to help their baseball acumen, their IQ. You know, and a baseball IQ is huge. I've got some kids that are reactors. They're just natural. Take Tyler Cate last year. I didn't have to teach him anything. He just on the fly. I just had to put him in situations. You know, I would hit an IO. I'd make him run a little bit further for a ball. He recognized that. Then all of a sudden he made the plays. I didn't have to tell him, you know, here's how you backhand it or the V cut. He just did it. And then you got guys who are very cerebral, like some pitchers and some coaches that kind of overanalyze things.
Right.
So you have to go and you have to tell them, you have to be either very visual with them or you can't look them in the eyes or you got to tell them a joke. I mean, everything's all different personalities. So it's very competitive. It is a great opportunity for kids to get better. You can be a good teammate regardless if you're starting on the field or not. You can be a great teammate in the dugout. You can be a leader in the dugout. You don't have to be the superstar. So it's a great opportunity not to become just a better player by being competitive, but just being a better person, you know, and just being an adult. So
since you're winning a lot, I mean, does everybody want to come play for you or?
Well, yeah, I have that problem now where I've got some players coming from. It's really not a problem. It's a good problem to have. I hate to say the word problem, but I'm getting a little bit of heat about it because, you know, players are like, I like that. I want to go play there. Now, you know, 2 years ago we were 10-19. I had the same coaching philosophy, you know, but it's just these players are evolving. So I've had probably 3 guys this year come over from other teams that wanted to play this year. I had that 2 years ago as well. But I always check with the coaches first. You know, I always say, hey, look, this person wants to play for me. If it's not okay with you, then I won't let it happen. But I've never run into where the coach is like, no, if they don't want to be here, you know, you don't want somebody playing for you doesn't want to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like to make sure that if you made that choice to do that, because that's an uncomfortable choice, right? You're probably going to see that coach and some of those players again. You know, I'm going to make it worth your while, and I'm going to help you get better.
Yeah.
I think you, to rewind a little bit, one of the points that you made that I thought is really interesting for people who have, you know, kids coming up and they're trying to select teams, they're trying to select schools, you know, things like that. You have no idea what's going to happen with that coaching staff, you know, and you made that point. We ran into it with our daughter. We went out and did all this recruiting, went to 6-8 different schools.
Oh, God. More, yeah.
Settled on one that we really liked, and we liked the staff. And that was like what bought us in. Well, year and a half into it, 2 years into it, they completely turned them over. And now it's a completely different staff, and it was a completely different game. I mean, everything changed. So the assistant coach that was on the team that was really focused on making our daughter an all-star is now not there anymore. And now there's a new one that has no idea who they are, and everyone starts from scratch. You know, I mean, there's so many things going on there that people have to think about.
Yeah, and you know, whether people like it or not, that's why the transfer portal exists, right? It used to be when I was coaching, I started my coaching career as a GA at Indiana, and then I went to University of South Carolina and then to NC State. My job was recruiting because I love that part. I love building the relationships and stuff. But once you sign there, you know, you couldn't transfer in conference without sitting out a year. And you could block a transfer. You know, you could say you can go anywhere but these schools if you wanted to, which I felt was kind of unfair because as a coach, I could get up and leave for a better paying job tomorrow, right? And these are all kids. And, you know, I think it's fairer if the coaches can do that, then the players should be able to do it. And quite honestly, if I was coaching, I'd like it because if there's a player on the team that's just not meshing, I'm not obligated to provide a spot for him the next year. Hey, I'll fully support you if you want to go somewhere else or what have you.
So I think that's a really interesting point and something that I think a lot of people don't think about. One of the things that I want to get back into is we talk about this mentality in the mental game. And you talked about, a couple years ago having your team that was 10-19, and then you guys went ahead and swept the final tournament or whatever the case may be. What happened there? Like, what was the change?
There was no change in our approach. The change was we learned how to pick each other up because we had a lot of opportunities to do that, right? We had 19 losses. So every day someone else had to pick up their game, and we just get, losses that were 9-0 at the beginning of the year were 2-1 by the end of the year. So we could see this coming, and we lined up. We thought about a month away about what our pitching rotation would be. I did happen to be able to bring in one more pitcher that I knew that just got released from another league, so he helped out. Mm-hmm. One of our pitchers was a high school kid from South Florida that I knew. He just graduated from high school. He started a game in the playoffs and got a win. You're not counting on that. You're hoping that he keeps it close, but he got the win. That turned everything around. But they believed they could do it. I would like to think that I helped them with that. My whole goal is to put you in a situation where you can be successful. If you put kids, when you practice, in situations where they fail all the time, then they don't know how to be successful, right? If I take them in there and say, okay, look, this is you did a better job here, but here's the core of the problem. Then you get to the negative part, the old hamburger approach. Mm-hmm. Right? You did this wrong. This is what you did right. Let's work on this. And every one of them listened. Now, again, I got kind of spoiled because they listened. I don't know if they were scared of me or what, because there are times when I got into them and they're like, "Oh, Lord, Coach." But it was the same approach, just a matured mentality. We got tougher mentally. We got closer as a team. And if someone was down, someone stepped up. Mm-hmm. And, I still kind of get emotional thinking about that season because it was probably the greatest experience of my life because it taught me more about coaching. Like, I went into the game fairly confident that I knew what I was doing that season. I left an entirely different coach.
Sure.
And then last year was just the opposite, where we didn't even lose 10 games last year combined.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it created a different type. It exposed some things. It didn't really create anything. It exposed some coaching things that I had that I didn't know I have. So I'm learning probably more every year than my players are. So for me, and you keep asking why I come back, number one, I really enjoy Omaha, and I like the league because we have some flexibility to do some things in it that we can't in leagues that are MLB subsidized and what have you. And I got a nice connection to the community now. But because of the experiences here and because it's helped me in the last 4 years evolve my coaching more than anywhere I've ever been, whether it's professional or high school or whatever. So I want more of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot you're getting out of it as well.
Oh, absolutely. I kind of feel like I'm stealing from Joe because he's paying me to do this, and I'm having such a good time. But
yeah.
So are you like a yeller, or like what's your tactic?
No, I like to.
Pretty calm?
I'm more of a. I'm trying to think what the.
I would say intense. I mean,
okay.
You got to keep the word intense in there, I'd say.
I'm intense, but I'm more of a. There was a reference to me in a radio show as the De Niro of the league. And I'm trying to think if they're thinking Jake LaMotta and Raging Bull or Seth Rothstein in Casino, who was, as a calculated, I'm more of the Tony Soprano. I'm going to whisper in your ear, like, you need to get this right, or we're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
You're
scream.
not like the pointing the finger and yelling at the ump.
No.
Yeah.
I've not to get too personal, but I've been ever since I was 9 years old. I've trained in martial arts because I was this 9-year-old besides 14 feet, and I was falling all over the place. And my parents got me into that to kind of help my athleticism, and it probably helped me more than anything. And I've been doing it ever since then. So I've been doing mixed martial arts before it was cool. I was doing Jeet Kune Do. I'm now training for a USA senior boxing match that I qualified for nationals, and I wasn't even a boxer. Mm-hmm. So I've got a lot of years of learning how to channel that type of emotion and turn it into something positive. And if it wasn't for my background in martial arts, I probably would be that yelling coach. I might be that jackass parent. But I didn't mean to point at you when I said that.
No,
I just mean, since we were talking about it. Sorry.
I was like, oh.
Damn, that was bad.
No, I got it.
But,
Point at Andy. Sorry, that guy.
I sit and I think, what can I say that will get their attention for them to listen, not to just get their attention, right?
Yeah.
I can yell and get everybody's attention, but what am I accomplishing by that?
It's one of those things where, like, for the right kid, it's more effective when dad is disappointed.
Yes.
Than when dad
absolutely
starts hollering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And, with the teams that we've had, I think most of the guys, particularly the ones that you always grow closer to some kids than you do others. Like some kids are interested in being close to the coach. They want to pick my brain or something. Some kids are like, I'm just here for the X's and O's, and I appreciate it, coach. We'll see you later. Have a good career. The ones that you get to know personally don't want you to be disappointed more than anything.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't
want to let you down.
There's a difference between, and I just ran into this conversation last week with one of my outfielders. We were talking about philosophy, not that I was mad at him or anything. But he's kind of like one of my confidants. He's Brendan Anderson has played more games in the Corn Belt League than any player in history. As he played for me for 4 years now, so he's going on 60+ games or 80+ games. We were talking about the difference between being pissed off and being disappointed, right?
Yep.
Somebody will get over being pissed off, but get disappointed lasts for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's that wound that doesn't heal until you do something right. So when I tell guys that this is the difference. I may be upset with you for making a mistake that I know you don't make, but if you do it twice, or 3 times, I'm kind of disappointed in you.
I think there's some kind of reaction too where like if someone's coming at you, the kind of the natural reaction is to be a little bit defensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
But if you see that person like their weapons are down and they're just like, man, like, what are you doing? Like, that is so much more impactful if it's true, if it really comes from a good place.
I like to compare it to the military. The greatest leaders in the military are the cognitive guys, the admirals and stuff that don't yell, they have strategy. If I keep yelling every game, eventually they're going to tune me out. It's just noise.
Sure. Yeah.
And you got to pick the time to tell them you're disappointed or where to make it to. There's an appropriate time to do that. Me, and we were talking about my OCD-ness on the way over here, I got to fix the problem right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's my shortcoming.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to fix it right now. I'm going to address it right now. I'm going to make the confrontation right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not the best time. So I'm getting a little bit better at that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I completely they might have some medication for it. I don't know. But I would be willing to be a trial for that. But
yeah, that totally makes sense. One of the things that you had mentioned earlier as well, when we're talking about the mental game and kind of what you guys have accomplished, you talked about like the clothing and the apparel and how you guys were presenting yourselves and so on and so forth. How did that come into play, and was that kind of a planned thing as well?
Well, I'm a big believer of if you show up looking sharp and you have sharp I.O., you're already in the other team's head.
Yeah.
Right. If you look like a professional, people are going to assume you're a professional until you prove otherwise.
Yeah.
The entire approach to the game for guys and girls, if we have one girl in the league playing for another team, so that's really cool, is, when you step on that field, when you come in that fence, you're going to look like a filth baller that's ready to battle. You're nothing but baseball. I want 2 hours and 45 minutes of your focus. That's all I'm asking. You do whatever you want the rest of the day. Hopefully you don't do anything stupid. That's what I tell them. But when you come here, I want you focused. And what we do here is we don't do this crap talking back and forth, snippety crap. I hate that stuff. When you hit a double, act like you've done it before and you're going to do it again. Don't give me the horn dog thing and all this stuff and the dance and the bow and arrow. And that's ridiculous, right? You come here, you give me your focus. If you're going to say anything, you support your player. Now, if you know the other player and you want to joke, that's fine. But I want to hear you support our player first. That's our priority. This is your family this summer. We're going to be a priority. Nothing else matters. Everything else is second besides your real family and stuff like that. Of course, I'm not that much of I'm not that intense. But that is just kind of the ground rules for when you play for me. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. You see too much of that nowadays. Like you said, the people doing whatever they're doing, throwing their hands up, trying to look cool, whatever. But if you just own it and you do it, and like you said, act like you've done it before, like you do it every time. That's great.
Well, that's where the substance over style comes from.
Yeah.
And when Brandon interviewed me last week before the TV game, he said, your approach to this, has that changed? I'm like, man, that will never change. I mean, everything about me is going to change because I'm getting older. That will never change.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon didn't have to. We could have just grabbed the script from 2-3 years ago.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I got the same answers, right?
Yeah. So if folks wanted to learn more or kind of get involved, where would they have to go? What would they have to do to learn about 224 performance?
Pretty simple. Go to 224performance.com, and that's the numbers 2 and 2 and 4, all one word. We're on IG, Twitter, Facebook, all the social media stuff. If you're interested in being represented, you can reach out to us through the website. We're not going to over-promise, under-deliver to anybody.
And it's not just baseball, right? I mean, you got
we
swimmers,
we
divers,
just signed an undefeated heavyweight boxer right now that's working his way up in the ranks.
Man.
Wow, that's sweet.
Where are you guys mainly out of?
That's a great question. Everybody asks me that. Well, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
I'm still a Florida resident. I still spend a lot of time in Florida. And then, of course, I'm here 3 months a year. So North Carolina is the home base.
Okay.
And then I split the rest of the time between Omaha and South Florida.
So you just own homes everywhere, or you just do like extended
really
stays?
big homes, really.
Yeah, I'm going to do that Trapper John thing and get like a mobile home and just park it. That would be really cool. Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate to have landing spots. And and part of it too, to this league is we've had a friend of mine owns a place here. She lives in Colorado, and leases us this place, completely furnished, all bills included, for the summer for a very, very generous offer. And that too is a big reason. You have to be comfortable if you're going to deal with all the things we got to deal with. And it's a small price to pay to come back and have that kind of effect on people. You hope,
right?
To be comfortable in your off time.
Now, can I ask? Do you have kids yourself?
I do.
Family? I mean, do they come? You said something, hints about the...
This is probably going to get me in trouble if I put this link up on my site. Yes, I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
Recently turned 16 and 12.
Okay.
12-year-old thinks she's 20.
Right.
They all do.
Yeah, good Lord, man. I think it's like the biggest Godsmack ever that I have like 2 girls that aren't interested in sports.
Oh, they're not at all. Okay.
Not really, just kind of recreation-wise.
Yeah.
The oldest is in dance in the school and really enjoys it, and that's good. And she's like 5'10".
Oh, wow.
So she's taller than her mom. I don't know where she gets it from. And then the 12-year-old is like lightning in a bottle. Like she was doing some boxing with me, and she was good. She was like beating up boys, and they were getting upset because at that age, I'm sure somebody said something about it.
Right.
But she hasn't really found her niche. She did jiu-jitsu for a while with me, and then she did boxing. I was kind of hoping she could do something I like to do. Then she wanted to try swimming because I was a competitive swimmer for a long time. But she's kind of like into the social thing now. Like if her friends play Y-ball, that's what she's going to do.
Yeah.
And then with
finding the way.
Yeah, if you got the phone in front of them, man, that's going to be.
Right.
I mean, they are world-class phone operators.
I'm
let me
sure.
tell you.
There you go, yeah. I think what we were talking about earlier, Andy, and I have no reason not to talk about this for folks because I think we're going to do another episode here in a minute where we'll kind of get into some of those things about how he came up and what he's doing. So we'll get into that here in a minute if that's okay.
Yeah.
What last thing I wanted to ask, just because I think it's very interesting for people and I think it's a cool thing. I see the 224. You see these things if you follow sports at all in baseball and there's all these positions on the field, and you see kind of these cool sayings about it. So just to be clear for people, what are those positions and what are the numbers? Because obviously you've told us 2 is the catcher.
1 is the pitcher,
which
immediately goes to the pitcher's head because they're number 1.
Yeah, right.
2 is the catcher. 3 is first base. 4 is second. 5 is third. 6 is short. And 7, 8, 9 left to right field.
Okay, yeah. So because you see a lot of that too, and if you follow the game at all, they'll say, all right, the play was XXX, whatever.
6-4 to 2 or 6-4-3.
And it's kind of a cool way to talk about the game. So.
Yeah. And when you initially asked me that question, there's this great, I don't know if you call it a meme or something, but it's a field with the numbers and the positions, and then it gives kind of the nickname like, or the animal equivalent. Like I know catching is the lion, which I'm kind of proud of. Pitcher is usually like a chimpanzee or something.
Yeah, I was going to say peacock.
Or peacock. Actually, peacock's probably better.
Peacock, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got one that's like, dad's, coach's son or, tough guy and all that stuff. So I thought you were going to come up with that. And I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
So is that me? I was 6. I was a shortstop. Am I a coach's son then?
No,
Or is that a center
usually,
fielder? Where are we at?
that would probably be pitcher or center fielder, yeah.
Really?
And then the right fielder is like the kid with no arm. That's what
Yeah,
they think.
yeah.
But actually, right field is probably one of the most important positions on the field because you got to have a really good arm there.
Right, you got to get over to third base.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Well, are we gonna? I mean,
Yeah, let's get
I think
into
so.
that, and then
Yes.
in the other episode, because then we'll talk to him a little bit about how he's come up and everything he's got going on, and then we'll go through that stuff.
perfect. So we're gonna sign off for this one.
I think so, man. You got anything else in that arena?
I don't. I mean, we covered a lot there, didn't we?
Yeah, that was fun.
We did, yeah.
All right.
For sure. Yeah, we're about an hour in, so that'll probably do it.
Later, folks.
All right.
Peace.